And we are live.
Hello, good morning, everyone, and welcome to From Paycheck to Purpose Summit. Can you believe it? It is day three, the final day of our summit. We had such an incredible journey together so far. It was filled with eye-opening discussions and powerful insights. I don't know about you, but I feel truly blessed by the experiences we have shared during this summit. I am Shirley Griffith, hailing from the beautiful island of Barbados, and I'll be your host for this incredible journey today. Alongside me are our wonderful co-hosts, Demetrius and Falana. So, guys, I hope you have your pens and papers out. For those who don't write, your tablets ready to take notes because we are going to have a lot of valuable insights and inspiration to share with you today. But before we do that, I just want to do a quick recap of yesterday's session, discovering your unique calling. So we talk about the importance of developing your skill in the area of your calling while maintaining your 9 to 5 job to ensure you are prepared when opportunities arise. We went on to say we need to be aware of the resources God has bestowed upon us and how to utilize them to create ventures that generate wealth. Our inclination to seek job security often replaces our reliance on God as our provider. Like this tendency to act as our God, relying on our wisdom rather than God's, is contrary to God's design. And if you want to see the results of God's promises in the Bible, you need to be fully committed to God's truth. It can't be halfway. You have to be fully committed to following God's truth. And the Bible teachings is always opposed to cultural norms, and that's the thing I think that gets us in trouble. While society encourages us to separate our Christian values from various aspects of our life, our relationship with God should permeate every facet of our existence. So that is my quick recap, sorry, from yesterday. I don't know if it's anything I missed. Demetrius and Falana, you can add it at this particular point in time.
Oh, I think you summed it up quite well. I think my favorite part of what you said, and just to recap a little bit from yesterday, is about how we talked about how the Bible is counterculture. It pushes against culture in and of itself. So you're right. We also talked about how when it comes to the word of God, we can't try. We just got to kind of make the decision. You got to be fully committed. It's almost like submerging yourself underwater when it comes to doing what God has called you to do. But here's the thing, as we move into what we're going to talk about today, the Bible, the scripture helps you to recognize algorithms. And remember, we talked about algorithms being structures, or here's another word, strongholds that keeps you bound to whatever it is that you may be dealing with. The word of God helps to cut through that. So I think that was well said, Charlene.
Yes, thank you. But today we have a special guest all the way from Barbados, Mr. Fabian McDowald. So I'm going to
Thank
give
you for
him,
having me.
yes, I'm going to give him his special introduction. So just give me a few minutes. Fabian is an inspirational and dynamic motivational speaker, renowned for using the transformative power of words to uplift and empower his audience. As a devoted Christian husband and influencer, Fabian captures hearts with his daily Bajan word of the day skit, motivational messages, and compelling spoken word pieces. Having garnered over 4 million views, his content resonates universally, touching the lives of individuals from diverse backgrounds. Fueled by a profound belief in his purpose to guide others towards their own sense of meaning, Fabian considered himself a conduit for breathing life into individuals and situations. As a motivational speaker and spoken word artist, he actively seeks to inspire, empower, and effect positive transformation, leaving an indelible mark wherever his journey takes him. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a warm welcome to Fabian as he joined our conversation today to share insights on living out your purpose.
Yes, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
I hope you feel welcome, Fabian.
I do. I do.
Yeah, it's really good to have you here, Fabian. I know we had our initial discussion even before we came on live, but I know the audience want to hear your story, where you came from, what sparked your initial journey towards living out your purpose. So I'm just going to give you the floor to kind of give us an idea as to where you were now, where you were then, and how you got to where you are now.
So where I am now, as you said in the introduction, I'm a motivational speaker, spoken word artist. I'm also a financial advisor. But it the journey here, it was a long journey.
Mhm.
I left school at just 15 years old. I'm not sure what the school structure is in the United States, but here we have from first to fifth form in secondary school. So when I got to third form, at the end of that year, I failed pretty much all of my exams and I was asked to repeat third form. At the end of the second year, I got promoted to fourth form. I think the teachers just felt like, let's give him a chance. So they promoted me to the fourth form. At the end of fourth form, failed the exams again. I was asked to repeat the fourth form. At that point, my parents and the teachers decided it really doesn't make sense sending Fabian back to school because he's not taking in anything. So I finished school at 15 without any certificates. I started working in construction, and let me tell you, the sun was hot. So at
Yeah.
that point, I made the decision, I don't want to be
The sun
mixing
is not for
concrete
you.
for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So on evenings, after work, I would go to what we call the Barbados O-level institution, and I did my certificates there. Um, I eventually learned a trade. My dad told me, you can't do labor work forever, so you need to learn a trade. And he took me to a guy to learn joinery woodwork. And while I was there with that guy, he kept saying to me, we got to know each other well and we had really good conversations. And he kept saying to me, Fabian, why are you here? You have so much potential. There's so much more that you can do with your life. I don't think you should be here. And he's the one that really encouraged me to, further my studies and try to become the best possible version of myself.
Right.
While at the O-level institution, in doing the English languages, in doing the English language and the English literature, I realized that I had a passion for language and literature. And it is then that I really started to write. I started writing short stories, started writing poems, I started writing plays. Tyler Perry was becoming popular at the time, so I figured, if he can make it writing plays, I can make it writing plays. Yeah, so I started writing plays, but here in Barbados, that wasn't seen as a real job. So I would write things for people and they would enter shows, and almost every show they enter, they would win best talent, best performance, best spoken word, best play. But it wasn't generating any income from it, and it wasn't being encouraged to pursue it as a career. So I put that on the back burner for a while. I went into sales, started working for a telecommunications company, eventually became a manager in the business unit, and I stayed in sales for a long time. I had my own business in sales, even in the insurance industry. Now it is sales again until a few years ago, I said, you know what, let me go back to my first love, which was literature. And I began to do the public speaking,
Right.
and I found a way to incorporate spoken word into what I was doing as a speaker. I discovered a guy by the name of Siku Andrews, and something he did call poetic voice. And at the time, Siku was the only poet speaking at Fortune 500 companies. And he would go into the companies and he would say, you know what, I do this thing called poetic voice. You tell me what you want to communicate to your audience, and I'll present it to them in a way that really captures their attention.
Wow, that's
So I
amazing.
started, yeah. So I started to do that here. for different organizations. I started going to the schools and sharing my story and speaking to the students. And that's what has led me to where I am today, as a speaker.
And
And-
now,
Okay.
when you said that, because I know a lot of people they run into things like this. So you had a career or a job, right? Sort of
Mhm.
say, but that wasn't necessarily what your passion was, right? Or what you
Yeah.
decided to pursue. How did you, because I'm pretty sure you accumulated a certain lifestyle for yourself based on the income that you were making. How did you break free from that to get into, what you do now? Was it just all of a sudden you stopped everything and went toward this new, desire or pursuing that desire that you've always had? Or did you
Mhm.
slowly kind of pace yourself to get into it?
So I paced myself towards it, and I'm still pacing myself towards speaking full time. But
Yep.
what really encouraged me, a few years ago, my church went through a transition period where we were changing pastors. And there was a guy at church that I always admired as a speaker. And I used to say to myself, when I get to his age, I'm going to be that good of a speaker. But when we went through the transition process, our new pastor was younger than I am. A lot of the persons he was bringing in to speak was younger than I am. And I said to myself, why am I waiting until I get to 40 years old
Yeah,
to
where do I
become
want to be when I grow up, kind of thing. Yeah.
yeah. Like, why am I waiting until I'm 40 years old to become what I know I'm called to be? So in seeing him and becoming friends with him and becoming friends with some of the other guys that he brought in, there's a guy here locally by the name of Raphael Saul. He's an international motivational speaker. He travels and he does this for a living. And seeing these guys that are my age or younger do it and
Right.
become exceptional at it
Right.
really encouraged me to say, Fabian, what are you waiting on? That you can do this as well. So that's what
Right.
caused me to put one foot in front of the next and begin to move in the direction of purpose.
That's
Oh,
cool. That's cool.
I do have a question as well too. Demetrius and I and Charlene, we always talk about algorithms, and algorithms, what we call, we've coined a phrase called algorithms, or a word called algorithms, which means they're strongholds. Why do you think, and we talk about how the world system, it strategizes to keep you bound. We believe because the Bible talks about we are in the world, but we're not of the world. And again, we believe that the world systems, there are structures that are in place that strategizes to keep you going on their route, which is contrary to what God says. So my question is to you, and is why do you believe that writing, and it's the same way here in the States, why do you believe that writing and the playwrights you were doing, why do you think that that's not seen as a real job?
As you just said, the algorithm. That's what we are told. We are
Mhm.
told that you need to have a 9 to 5, which
Mm-hmm.
should give you a sure income and provide some measure of security. So we tend to push our gifts aside and our passions aside in pursuit of the paycheck at the end of the week.
Right.
Um, I heard Demetrius said something. How much did they pay you to give up your dream?
Right.
So when you really think
Yeah,
about
that's
it
your
that
question.
way, it's not enough. So you're gonna spend the rest of your life miserable, going
Right.
to a job you hate, asking yourself the same question, why am I here
Right.
every day, as opposed to investing in yourself for a year, 2 years to become what you're really called to be, to become the best possible version of yourself. And if there's a quote that says, if you're not building your dream, you're building somebody else's.
Here it goes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what had me so annoyed is that, like, this is not the when I came into work and start to feel unhappy, I realized that everybody is feeling this way, but I don't know, like the expectation was like study, work hard, get into your
Right.
career, and you'll be happily ever after. Nobody tell
Right.
you the real truth, and that had me so annoyed. It
Right.
was only me that was experiencing this, and all the time I was thinking
Yeah.
it's
A
only
lot of
me.
people
I
feel it.
didn't realize it turned out everybody feel this way, and it's like everybody going on that's normal. I mean, like, I could not wrap my mind
You
around that
know, you
fact.
know, even within the workplace, you have a lot of square pegs in round holes.
Mhm.
So you may have some person working in sales
Mhm.
that may be excellent at management,
Right.
somebody in management that may be excellent at sales, somebody that was the best salesperson in the company that at the end of a 3, 4 year period they could get promoted to manager and they're horrible at managing and they
Right,
don't like it, but they feel that this is the next step in my career.
right,
So
right,
I think we need to know the things that we're good at, the areas that we're gifted in, and focus on those things as opposed to having people dictate to us what we need to become and what the next steps are.
right.
That's cool that you say that, because we have something that we call kind of the purpose triangle, purpose wealth triangle. And picture a triangle, right? In one corner of the triangle, you have gifts and talents. The other corner of the triangle, you have skill. And the top of the triangle, you have opportunity. And based on what I'm hearing you say, is that you went and developed skill in your gift, which was, the writing and the speaking, and I guess the language portion of it, and so Cheryl, do you mind sharing with people some areas that you built skill in that area that's creating and affording you the opportunities that you're getting now?
Yeah, in terms of building skill. So before I got into spoken word and poetic voice, I really wanted to be a rapper as a teenager. So
Hey,
the
now I used to
lyrics,
rap. I used to rap. I did gospel rap
Gospel
for about 16 years. It was a long
yeah.
time. Yeah. So
So
I like that.
the lyricism was always there. But
Right.
when I decided I wanted to use the gift to speak, that is something else that I had to develop. So I had the gifting, but I know I needed to become skilled in this other area. And I would take every opportunity presented to me to get on stage and speak. And in the beginning, I was terrified. I was nervous. I used to have to plan every single thing that I was going to say. And if I missed the line, that would completely throw me off for
Gotcha.
the rest of the time on stage, but in doing that and becoming more skilled at it over time, I've reached a level of comfort where yes, I still feel a bit nervous because before I go on stage, because I want to do a good job, but
right,
I'm less worried about will I be able to deliver in the sense of completely crashing because I've invested the time and the years into becoming skilled at what I do. So you're absolutely right. You need to take the gift that you're born with, that you're given, and then you need to work at it so you can become skilled and deliver it with excellence.
well, and I want to ask you this, like I think I mentioned to you earlier that, we have several adults that have say, hey, I don't know my purpose. How do I discover my purpose? Like, could you give a quick tip, or give some type of suggestion to the person who says, to the adult that says, hey, I'm 40 years old and I don't know what to do. I don't know how to discover this.
I'm clueless.
I'm clueless. Like, could you give them, an idea of where to start?
But for me, it was what is it that I love?
Mhm.
I mean, if I'm walking around the house, if I'm walking down the street, if I'm driving, I just find myself rhyming, find myself making up things in my head. It's what comes naturally to me. And I
Right.
just that was my baseline. You guys mentioned your triangle. I actually teach something called the purpose identification pyramid, where we ask the four questions. What is it that I love?
Mhm.
What am I passionate about? And passion can be something that really gets you really excited, or something that gets you really angry, something that you want to see change in the world. What is it that I'm passionate about? What is it that I'm good at? So you look at the things you're passionate about, the things that you're really good at, and then you ask the third question, which is, what problem can I solve using these two things? And the fourth one is, how do I make profit from it? But once you can solve a problem, that takes care of itself because people pay to have problems solved.
Right.
So once you know what you love, know what you're good at, and figure out what problems you can solve using those two things, and you're well on your way.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
good. That's
that is
really
fair. Yeah, because we talked about like here over in the United States, the whole thing like in rap music and stuff like that, it's always get in the bag. It's always about get the money, get the bag. And when you move into your 30s and now we're in our 40s, I even though like by trade I counsel students, but you would be surprised how many adults come to me because they're like, I know I went into this career for this reason, for that reason, but I don't like it. I don't like it. So it's again, and they're on this rat race of life. They're on this like hamster wheel, and it's kind of like they don't know how to get off. They don't know
Yeah.
how to detach. And
It's a trap.
it's a trap. And you were talking about Charlene earlier about like, how did I get here? You know, you said something to me a couple months ago. It's like, how did I get here? And it's the people who construct the algorithm. You said they live by a different curriculum. Because as a child, you know, I don't know about anybody else, but when I would talk about entrepreneurship, you know, oh, that's risky.
Yeah.
Or, it's no security. But here's the thing.
Yeah.
You're an entrepreneur. Your
Mhm.
your brochure that you gave to me about going into this career or doing X, Y, and Z, you're an entrepreneur. So the very thing that I say that I want to delve into and the very thing that I want to pursue, you're telling me that's risky, but you took the risk.
Yeah, because the algorithm was designed to keep workers.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
not, and God, created us for dominion.
Mm.
And when you compare the two, they don't go together. So if you allow the algorithm to dominate your life, then you're right. You will go into something that's not even, fulfilling to you.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
So, and I think about like what we were even saying yesterday about people who maybe are struggling to discover their purpose. Meditating on the scriptures is an excellent way to start understanding your identity in Christ. I think, like, to me, that's the first and foremost, understanding who you are in Christ. I struggle with that.
Yeah.
Trying to understand why, why am I here? Because I dealt with anxiety, I dealt with depression, I dealt with hopelessness. But it's when I started understanding and becoming secure with my identity with Christ, that for me helped to segue into discovering my purpose and having that relationship with the Lord to help me get to that point.
And I like what Charlene said earlier this week, is about how do you serve other people,
Right.
and
Yes.
maybe I like what, that pyramid that you're talking about, when you take your gift, your talent, mix it with your passion. And then now it's like, what problems can I solve? Who can I serve with this? And that's where, the wealth comes into play then.
That's right.
So,
Yeah.
that's
Even
pretty
when
cool.
even when you think about who you can serve, there's a quote that says, "You are perfectly positioned to serve the person you once were." You're perfectly positioned to serve the person you once were. So your story and your journey and all the things that you've been through, when you find purpose, you now have an opportunity to reach back and help people that find themselves in the same position that you were once in, and having come out of that situation, you can show them, but this is the way out. You don't have to do it exactly like I did it, but this is a way out. Yeah.
That's good. That's
Yeah, because I think is you can connect with the emotions that persons might be going through, even at the point that you were at, because you were at that place. And so I just want to touch a bit now on those, emotions that people might be going through, the internal barriers that might be stopping persons from even moving ahead. What were those internal struggles that you had, and how do you overcome them?
For me, one of the main things was feeling like you're not good enough. Yeah, that was a big one for me. Like you're not a good enough speaker. And then having had struggles in life and continue to have struggles, how dare you talk to people about how to overcome when you are still overcoming? And then there's a fear of things that happened in your past
Right.
coming up when you're in the process of becoming, so you're like, I don't want to go on camera. I don't want to talk like this. I don't want to put myself out there because somebody may say, he used to, you know.
Yeah,
So,
you're right. You're
but
right.
that will always be the case. So are you gonna never pursue the things that you know you're supposed to pursue because you're always fearful of what somebody is gonna say? So you really have to get over yourself and realize that is a pride thing. I mean, if they talk, so what?
Yeah,
Let them
I
talk.
think that's a lot of our struggles in terms of being concerned about what people think about us and how they view us. I think even now I still, have to deal with that, but then you have to really connect with who you are in Christ. Because if you don't do that, then what people may say, may really impact in terms
You
of
feel
your action.
condemned,
Mm-hmm.
but there's no condemnation
That's right.
in Christ. So
Mm-hmm.
keep it moving.
That's
Yeah.
right. Now, what projects are you working on that's important to you at the moment?
So I'm working on two projects simultaneously. Thank God for my wife, because I'm not very organized, but she is. So I'm working on on something called Project 100 right now, where this is on the financial advising side, where we're trying to help 100 young people get their first life insurance policies in place. And but more importantly, I'm working on something called Help, where I'm putting together a program that I want to take into the schools well, later this year, when the school year itself starts. And the Help is a holistic education learning program. So we cater to the whole student as opposed to just focusing on academics only, because students need help. So that's where the idea came from. So those two things.
Awesome.
That's pretty cool.
That is good.
Now, here in America, I don't know how it is there, but culture plays such a big role in the lives of our young people. So what are your thoughts about how culture is steering our young people today? As far as, when we talk about, purpose, and we talk about, pursuing things that they really enjoy, how, what part do you think culture plays on it?
I think culture plays a huge role. When I speak to young people and I ask them, like, what are you good at? What do you want to become? Today, I would get answers like, I'm good at FIFA. I am good at Fortnite. I'm good at playing video games. You know, and that is a culture thing.
Yeah.
It's
But
not
you can make
necessarily
money doing that too.
you can, but what I encourage them to do is to, maybe put the devices down for a week or two, which is a tall order,
Right.
but put the devices down and see what else you gravitate towards if you don't have the video game to fall back on. Because what you just said, the culture that we are living in plays a big role in how people perceive themselves and the things that they may think that they're good at, and the glass wall that they might run into from time to time.
Yeah. And on top, to piggyback off of that statement, something that we've always said was, when you see a mass movement of people making the same decision, there's an algorithm behind it. Because one of the things we talk about is the 7 mountains, or the pillars that affect society. You have the mountain of entertainment, the mountain of government, the mountain of education. All those pillars affect society. So you're trying to tell me that every youth, or the majority of youth, all want to do the same career? There's an algorithm attached to that. Or the majority of youth wants to be a professional basketball player or soccer player. Like, there's nothing wrong, if that's what you want to do. I'm not saying that, but when it becomes a mass movement of everybody wanting the same career, that's my antennas go up. Because when I used to work as a graduation coach in a high school, the two groups that I dealt with were the freshmen and the seniors. And when my freshman boys came through, every freshman boy wanted to be a rapper. And I remember I stopped one of the boys, and I'm all about people pursuing their dream. Like, I'm all about it. But I remember stopping to ask one of the boys, because this might have been like the 6th kid in a row. And like, I said, well, he said, well, yeah, Miss Shepherd, I want to be a rapper. Okay. Let me pull your grades up. And I said, in your ELA, your English language arts class, your ELA class, I said, you have an F. So I'm saying, so like, I said, I'm not against you being a rapper. Like, are you writing lyrics? Like, tell me about your writing skills. Let's talk about that. And we could not have that discussion. And I told them, I said, look, I am for you. I'm going to ask you some questions that you may have to think through, but I am totally for you. if this is something you want to pursue, you need to get your writing skills on par. You need
Yeah.
to be working on that skill. So I think a frustration was, again, students saying, oh, I want to be X, Y, and Z, but you're not even working on the skill. You want to be a pro basketball player. You hadn't even picked up a basketball. Like that's not going to happen. You don't have the work ethic to accompany said dream.
There's
I
a
think it's funny because here, it's basketball, football, and you may hear baseball. And then when you said it, I was wondering what you was going to say. And you said, FIFA, soccer. And I'm like, wow. So the difference there, soccer is a big sport, where you all are, located. And here is basketball and football. So all of our young people want to be some type of athlete, and I said this earlier with one of the boys that I have. I asked him, I said, hey, what are your plans after you graduate? And he said, I want to play pro football. And I asked him, I said, so if I give you $10 million right now to never touch a football again, would you take it? And the kid was like, yeah. And all the other kids were like, oh man, you don't love the game. You don't love the game. But this one boy, I asked him why. His response was, he said, hey, the 10 million you give me is guaranteed, but it's not a guarantee that I'll ever go pro. And to me, I was like, wow, you're the wisest kid I ever heard, as an eighth grader. Because most people say, no, I love the game. I love the game. Yeah, but the game don't necessarily love you, So for this kid to say, hey, I would take the 10 million, I was like, man, that's awesome. So
I recently heard somebody say something similar, and they about a student that wanted to become a professional athlete. And he said to the student, well, listen to me. What are the chances of you becoming the next LeBron James? Right? Chances are very slim. But if you go to school, you do your work, you graduate, you go on to study at a tertiary institution, and you graduate in whatever subject area. Let's say you study to be a lawyer. What are the chances of you becoming a lawyer? 100%.
Right.
Yeah. So
Guaranteed.
so while you are thinking about pursuing your career as an athlete, also have and work on the backup plan that is 100% guaranteed to happen, as opposed to focusing 100% on the thing that's a chance.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Man. With hearing you say that, another just thought I want to throw out there. So we talk about, guaranteeing, and we talk about careers. Do you think, Charlene, you jump in here too. Do you think that we put too much stock into other people versus pursuing something that we can almost reassure ourselves? Like you said, the career of a lawyer kind of being something that's guaranteed versus an athlete. You're waiting on someone to give you a chance, or give you an opportunity. But with the lawyer or doctor, or even construction or whatever, that's on you to make that happen, versus to bring it into pass versus somebody else.
Yeah. So I think that we, and I hope I'm answering your question correctly. I think that we do put too much stock in what other people think, or what other people want us to do. Even with the guy that may say he's interested in becoming a professional athlete, I say to them, well, look, that's something that you're passionate about. I also want you to consider the thing that you're good at. So let's say that you're good at writing. You may never become a professional athlete, but how about you think about doing journalism and you become a professional sports writer? So you're still doing the thing that you love, and you're still surrounded by the thing that you're passionate about.
Right.
How about you study and become a professional coach, a physical education teacher? How about you become a news anchor? So even within that sphere of the thing that you're really passionate about, there's so many different avenues you can take career-wise that still allows you to live a purpose-driven and fulfilled life. So I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people focus a lot on what they like. And I think, yes, that may factor in, but you still gotta be realistic. You may not be good at it. And you gotta ask yourself, even if you do all the training and stuff, will you ever be good at this thing?
Right.
So I think that's still something that you need to factor in. Is this lines up within your skill set? And like you said, you might not directly be an athlete, but you can, explore other options that allow you to still be within your sport. Connect with your passion, but it fits more along the lines of what you are strong at, your skills.
Yeah.
And what would you say also, Fabian, too? Because I know, and the reason I'm asking this is this was a struggle I had years ago. What about to the person who is not a easy career to detect? And what I mean by that is being a speaker, or one of those careers where the university may not have a program lined out for how to do that thing. Something that's a little bit more, I hate to say abstract, but a little bit more abstract. So we'll use public speaking as an example, because I don't know about where you are, but where we are, that wasn't like public speaking is a class, but it wasn't a course, or it wasn't a degree. It was a course, but it wasn't a degree. I'm sorry.
So still pursue it. Still pursue it. Get creative with how you're gonna go about it. While degrees are important and they serve their purpose in that they show that you're able to stick with something for an extended period of time. Look at the majority of billionaires and really successful business people. They don't have degrees. What they had was passion.
Yeah.
And they pursued it with all their heart.
Right.
90%, no, let me not give a percentage, but it may be more than that. But a lot of them dropped out of college to pursue the thing that they were passionate and really good at. So I would always start with passion, the thing that you're really passionate about as the base, and then you can build out everything else from there. If not, you're gonna find yourself in a situation where 10, 20 years down the line, you really hate what you do because
Right.
you're not passionate about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's what we run into so much, is that so many people dread Monday morning, getting up to go and pursue a job that they really hate, when there's no fulfillment.
Well, because you're told what you really are passionate about or what you really care about is not important.
Yeah.
So no, that's not important. No, your writing skills, no, being a poet is not important. You need to come over here and go work in IT. This is what you need to do over here. And what happens is you get into those fields and you're toiling and you're struggling, trying to do it because that's what you're told to do, because you're told that you can't make money in that field. You can't take care of your family. Go get a real job, So it's not just, and let me say this. I think people do it out of sincerity, like the people that we love, but even though it may be done out of sincerity, it can still be done out of ignorance. It can still be information given out of ignorance. So we've not learned, or we need to learn, and that's something that we're working on even with our own children, how to teach people how to learn how to build. Again, it's not what I want to be. Is when I think about what I want to be versus what do I want to build, it puts me in a different mental state. It gives me my mind shifts to how can I make this happen? Right. What things can I put together to create what it is that I'm trying to concoct or pursue or whatever it is, opposed to when I think about what do I want to be, again, that's very futuristic. And I think just the wording alone will change the person's, or the child or the adult, it'll change the person's mindset. It'll steer it in a different direction. In the direction of innovation,
because it puts you in the mind frame of now versus in the future.
Right.
Yeah.
But you know your role can change, throughout that whole process. So you're not only focusing on one thing because this is what you want to be, but as you seek to build, your role might transition to different things as you go along. So Amy, you're more open to possibilities and not just sticking to one area. Right. So you're developing in a number of different areas as you go along.
I'm definitely going to use that in the future. What do I want to build versus what do I want to be?
Right. Because if you think about building, what is the first thing? If I'm going to go build a house, what is the first thing you say to yourself? What tools do I need?
Right.
If I'm saying if I'm saying, what do I want to build? What, because the Bible talks about us leaving an inheritance to our children's children. So
Right.
if I'm building something, what tools do I need? Again, skills. You know, I have the raw gift, but I may need to sharpen my gift by getting some additional skills
That's right.
so that I can work on that skill at maximum capacity. You talked about the day with David tending to the sheep. You know, he's tending to the sheep, and he said he fought the lion and he fought the bear, but he was building skills so when Goliath came, he could take on Goliath. He would not have been able to take on Goliath without tending to the sheep, without fighting, defend the sheep with the lion and the bear.
Yeah.
So when you think about building, you're thinking about, okay, what tools do I need in order to build this infrastructure?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people take on purpose as this ultimate end goal versus it being in the moment. You know, purpose is a day-to-day thing. Like, what am I called to do today versus what is my ultimate calling? You know, that's what makes it difficult for people to find out what their purpose is.
Because it's like puzzle. It's like almost putting together the pieces of a puzzle. And a lot of times, and that may be where fear comes in at, because you see this big picture, God is giving you this vision, and it's like, oh my gosh, who am I?
But Joseph is in the Bible. Joseph is a good example of that. You know, God gave him a dream, and he went and communicated that dream to his parents and to his brothers. You know, but he wasn't there yet. You know, but then he goes into Potiphar's house, and now he's a great organizer and a great leader. And he becomes, you know, a person in charge in Potiphar's house. Then he ends up in a prison, and he still, you know, is using his talents and gifts because he's interpreting dreams and organizing even in the prison, you know, to use his leadership skills. Then he goes from that to now the opportunity is created where I believe, again, God created that opportunity where no one could interpret Pharaoh's dream but Joseph. And now the purpose or the dream that he had, that he communicated to his parents and to his brother and sister, comes to play. But it was all the little things that he did along the way in building skill, you know, and his talent and gift that got him to where the big dream was. Right. You know, and that's what scares people, is like, okay, I got this big dream, but look at where I'm at. You know, how do I go from where I'm at to this big dream? Right. You know?
Yeah,
you know the thing about that is Joseph's story, and I see it in my own life as a journey along, is that God will give you a dream, or he may show you what the end looks like, but he doesn't tell you what the path looks like. And I'm glad he doesn't, because if I had seen what the path looks like, I'd be like, you can keep that dream.
Yes.
I don't want it. I don't want to have to go through all that to get to this.
Yeah.
So,
Because you're exactly right. We were talking about yesterday, Romans 12:2. Do not be conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. And then it says, then you can prove the good, acceptable, and perfect will of God. And we were talking about the transformation process, which of what you're talking about. You're talking about, you know, seeing that big dream, but that transformation that has to take place, you know, as you are hitting those benchmarks. And a lot of people, I don't want to say a lot of people, but I'm saying some people, you know, don't realize that they want the goal, they want the dream, but they don't understand the transformation, the mindset shift that has to take place, because it's then when you're transformed, then you can prove the good, the acceptable, and the perfect will of God. But transformation takes place.
I
the
think
transformation is tough.
Jesus, you know, every day he was, you know, focused on about his father's business. So it's like every day, I believe, even as he got it, he was answering, what do you want me to do today? So he was always connecting in God to find out, you know, in terms of what will you have me pursue today. So I guess sometimes that you were saying, we focus on what will happen like 10 years from now or whatever, but these everyday habits and stuff that we work on every day, actions that we work on every day, will help us to get to where we need to be in 10 years. So I guess we need to be always connecting with God as to, how do you want me to pursue today? Who do you want me to connect with? What do you want me to focus on a daily basis?
And most of the pleasure is in the journey, as opposed to accomplishing a goal. Because sometimes if you set a hard goal, whenever you reach it, it's like Okay. So
Yeah.
what next? Like
Yeah.
all the fun is gone, as opposed to focusing on the journey and the steps that you're taking along the way. Yeah.
That's good. You know, and then
Yeah.
scripture says, take no thought for tomorrow. Tomorrow take care of itself.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Yeah, and that like just trusting in God on a daily basis, you
Mhm.
know, I think that's how God wants us to operate.
Mhm.
Because when we begin to think, like you said, take no thought for tomorrow, when we begin to think, you know, how I'm gonna get this done, how I'm gonna get this done,
Yeah.
but just trusting in God, how He's gonna provide for us today, you know, as opposed to trying to figure out everything all at one time.
Yeah.
That just reminded me of Psalms 23 when it talks about the shepherd leading the sheep. I saw a documentary a few years ago where the guy was saying the green pastures mentioned, if you go to that area, is not a lush green pasture, you know. The shepherd, there were patches of grass in the desert, and the sheep had to follow the shepherd every day to each patch of grass. So it's not like they were in an area where they could eat nonstop. Every day they got up, they needed to trust and follow the shepherd, and he would lead them to this green patch. So and that's how we ought to be with God, trusting him every day to lead us to the next step and the next step and the next step,
That's
as
excellent.
opposed to thinking that we're gonna be in a sea
Yeah.
of abundance at all times.
Right.
Yeah.
and what happened if it was the sea of green pasture, then we would leave that and we would go do it on
Yeah.
our own.
Right.
You know,
Yes, we would.
yeah. And I think that's where that's what's happening with so many people when it comes to their careers, you know, is that they're not trusting God, but they're like, hey, you know, this right here pays a lot. You know, I can provide this type of life for myself, you know, and then they run after that. And it's like, man, I hate that I've done this now, but because I've created a certain lifestyle off of the income that I'm making,
Mm.
it's hard for me to go pursue now what
Yeah, can't get out. The
doing.
mortgage payments have to pay at the
Yeah.
end of the month.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah.
Responsibilities kick
Yeah.
in, and now it's like,
Mhm.
man, because I got these responsibilities, now I can't even pursue what I'm dreaming about or what God has
Mhm.
placed in my heart to pursue.
Right.
Because if I do, I'm going to go lacking in, you
Mhm.
know, what I've created. You know.
Yeah. And you know, we say,
Yeah. Go
oh,
ahead.
go ahead, Charlene, you were gonna say something.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say again, you know, when you extract God from your decision, it doesn't necessarily have to be where I don't serve God. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying when you extract God from your decision making, then that's what ensnares you.
Yeah.
Because you may be trusting God, hypothetically, you might be trusting him for your finances or whatever, but you may not have your trust in God when it's helping me to choose a career for my life. So when you operate in humanism, meaning you see yourself as God, when you extract God from your decision making, then you're going to be bound. You're going to begin to be ensnared by that thing. You made that decision, that particular decision, absent from God.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
when you go back to Genesis, you know, what did Adam and Eve do? They ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
Mhm.
You know, and a lot of times I think even as Christians, we forget what they partook of. And when you think about good and evil, that's not something that we're even supposed to contain. We were supposed to get that from God. You know, but because we ate of that fruit, now we are determining what's good and what's evil. And
Of
what we
ourselves,
do
yeah.
is, right, we begin to pursue, you know, what in our mind and in our hearts tell us what good and evil is. And it's
Mhm.
not in line with what God's plan is for our life. You know?
Yeah.
But I don't think, I was trying to think back. I can't remember anybody ever teaching me that I need to not connect with God in terms of the career path that I choose. I can't think about
Yeah.
anyone. So I mean, like, we have access to the internet now, so it's like more and more information is available of person actually pursuing God's purpose for their life and being successful doing that. So for me, that is like really encouraging. Like back in the day when I was younger, we didn't really have access to the internet like
Right.
before. So now you know that there's, you know, the possibilities out there that if I put God first in my life, prioritize in terms of my purpose, then I can still live a successful life as opposed to just accepting what everybody is telling us around. And to me, I think that's a blessing. Internet, yes, a blessing.
Yeah.
Although sometimes it can be a curse, but in this case, I think that that's really encouraging to see persons excelling in areas, pursuing their purpose and doing what God will have them to do on a daily basis, still accepting like this is where I am. I need to stay here because I need to pay my bills or whatever, as opposed to, trusting God.
Right. And Fabian, let me ask you this. What would you say to your 15-year-old self?
Well, focus on your gifts. Focus on your gifts. Start there. God has planted something on the inside of you, and you need to water that and trust Him, and the rest will take care of itself. Because if I had done that from day one, there's no telling where I would be today in terms of my career as a speaker and teacher,
Right.
versus pursuing other things and then having to come back now in my 30s to
Right.
what God had initially called me to do. I mean, it has been a journey, and the journey has value, and I have a story to tell and share now. But it would have still been good to have been purpose driven from a much younger age versus career driven, and then having to inch my way back to
Right.
purpose at this point. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's so important what we are doing. I don't think we recognize the value because like people need to hear this stuff. People need to hear from an early age, what purpose is important.
I spoke
Yeah.
I
Go
spoke
ahead.
to some young people on Saturday
Mhm.
about purpose,
Mhm.
and at the end of the session, when the parents came back in,
Mhm.
one of the young men said to his mother, "Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna do accounts anymore."
Yeah. People
Because
need to
in
hear.
that session, he told me, he was good at accounts, and his parents wanted him to become an accountant, but he really did not like it
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah, and
Yes.
I know society, like even through media, like that is one of the biggest things that we talk about is culture and media. Like they continue to just put these same images out, in front of children, in front of adolescents, in front of adults, and it's just this same cycle. And the thing is I think I would say that's our life mission is to help people to understand that there is an algorithm that's there. There is something there that is already when you come into this world, is already a system we call it Babylon. There's already a system that's there
System.
ready to groom you in that system.
Right.
And so you have to, I don't want to say you have to, but it's the Holy Spirit, it's the Lord that helps you to recognize what's there. The scriptures helps you to cut through all of that and see truth for what it is. And
Yeah.
so you're right. If we would have gotten that at a younger age, perhaps we would have been a little bit further along, but thank God we got it, and He's still giving it to us. And we're able to continue to, walk that out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Excellent.
So even as we, start to wrap it up, is there any key takeaways that you would like our listeners to remember even from this session, related to living out your purpose? What are some of the key takeaways that we want persons to remember?
That's the question directed to
Anyone.
I'll,
Let me start with you,
I'll
Fabian. Yeah.
I'll jump in here.
Mhm.
Yeah, so the key takeaway is to know what you're passionate about,
Mhm.
know what you're good at, and figure out a problem you can solve using those things. And that's the foundation of where you can take the direction that you can take your career in. Again, what do I love? What am I good at? And what problem can I solve? And I think that from there, you are well on your way to becoming who God has called you to be.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you had said something before. I don't remember what it was, but I think you mentioned something about, I cannot remember the terminology, but you said something a couple of weeks ago about how sometimes people have pretended for so long that they don't even know, some people don't even know what they're good at.
What happens is that what I said was they will shrink back their gift and talent or hide their gift and talent and they hide it for so long that now when it's time for you to pursue it or, go after it because you suppressed it for so long, you get what it is, or, it's at a place now where it's like, it's almost not valuable,
And it's dormant. If you don't use it,
Dormant,
you lose
yeah.
it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's dormant, and now when it's time for you to use it, it's like, oh, I didn't even know I could do this. I didn't even know that this was something that God had given me. But I think that's difficult for people to.
Yeah, and from that point, because the only reason I'm mentioning that is because we've had people to say, like, I don't even know what I'm good at. Like, I don't know. And that's, I think, what Demetrius is saying. Like, you suppress, like, the gifts of God are without repentance. It's there. Now, you may have ignored it, and again, it may be dormant. And I would probably suggest maybe just to start. I like what you said, Fabian, earlier. Almost like you said, when it comes to children or teens, get off the devices, get off of your phones, and just go start doing some things. Just if you have no idea, go start go read different books.
Start serving and
Serving.
volunteering.
You're right, Charlene. Go and see where you can fill the gaps. If you're at church, go see what ministries you can plug into so you can start putting yourself to work.
Charlene, you said this yesterday. We was talking about people having that alone time, spending time by themselves. And I think a lot of people don't spend time by themselves.
Right.
And I think that's, for me, the alone time that I spend is usually when I hear God the clearest. And for those that don't know what their purpose is, or don't even know what their talents and gifts may be, I would encourage you to spend some alone time,
right?
Where you're just talking to God, just meditating, and He will begin to show you some areas where you're good at, and don't think in terms of, I don't know anybody that is doing this, because you may be an innovator,
right?
You may be the first to get started.
Right.
Yes. So, yes.
Yeah, because that's how I ended up meeting you, Charlene. Like we didn't know anybody in our space that's doing what we're doing, but like we just said that we were just gonna jump. We're just gonna do it, and the thing is that every time we step, God opens the door. Every time we step forward, God opens the door. And it may not. Who would have known? Who would have known that a year ago, when God first said start doing reels, go ahead and start, getting amongst the people. Who would have known that I would have been talking to two awesome speakers that is outside of the United States about helping to make those divine connections. But He said walk. He said step forward. He said that, because at the end of the day, and this is what we tell our teens in teen ministry. Now, this is my opinion. I don't believe walking in your purpose is a suggestion. I believe it's a calling, and I want to almost say a command, because at the end of the day, you talk about walking in well done, because we want Him to say, well done, thy good and thy faithful servant. I don't think that God's going to hear. This is what I say to myself. Well, God, I just really couldn't get to it because, I was busy, I had to, I had to go, I had responsibilities, Lord, I had to go wash those dishes, I had to go take those kids to soccer. I just didn't get a chance to get around to it. Or, I get nervous about stuff like that. I was looking best, Lord. I just don't think that God's going to accept that. I think He has an expectation. I think sometimes, and I'll say from the United States perspective, we have the propensity to think that we have an opinion about everything, and not understanding the kingdom of God, that we serve a king, and so that we have to submit to Him. So
goes back to what you were saying yesterday about the kingdom being counterculture.
Right. Okay. So the last point you wanted to make, though, is that the idea of a mentor. I think that's so important. If you can, I honestly struggle a few years back trying to find a mentor, somebody that was kind of in the area that I was interested in. So that was hard, but I think it's so important. Even if you have to pay, I wish I had to eventually do
Right.
because the amount of information I gain from that short space of time just connecting with the right people. Oh my goodness. It's like, why didn't I do this earlier?
Yeah.
So I think it's so important just to connect with the right people.
Yeah.
And and not just try to figure out everything on your own.
Right.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that is true. So true.
Mm-hmm.
Invest in yourself. Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
You have to.
Yeah. So guys, that's it. This one more minute. I think we had an excellent session today. Thanks a lot, Fabian, for coming and sharing your story with us. Very inspiring. And we just want to pray God's blessings over your life and just continue to, go after all that God called you to be.
Thank you.
Sometimes it might be discouraging, but the
Mhm.
encouragement is to just continue to hold on and trust in God. So I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next 2, 4, 3, 4, 5 years, going big. And so I just declare that over your life even right now.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Thank you so much for coming on.
yes.
Thank
I
you
don't
for
know.
having me,
Yes,
guys.
please. Right. Anything for you, Dimitris and Flana, before we close out?
No, I think this was good. It was really
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just want to encourage our audience. If you have any questions, comments, just leave them in the section below and we will, respond as soon as possible because we really love to hear your feedback because that's how we get better at what we are doing.
That's right.
Yes, and I do want to say one more thing. I know I said no, Charlene. Fabian, can you tell the audience your handles for
yes, right. Go
for
ahead.
Instagram?
So Instagram at I am Fabian Anthony. TikTok, I am Fabian Anthony. Fabian Anthony on Facebook and Fabian Anthony on LinkedIn as well.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
So
also,
my surname is McDowald, but I go by Fabian Anthony. Anthony is my second name. Yeah.
okay. And we'll make sure that we get these replays up for you guys who weren't able to see it live. We'll put the replays up on our YouTube channel. And so you'll be able to go back and you can contact Fabian if you need any of his services or desire any of his services. So you can go on our YouTube channel and we'll have these available for you.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's it for us. Have a good day. And we just continue to pray, Lord, that you would pursue all that God has called you to be. Because God, have great plans for you. Just remember that. Have a good evening and goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
I'm gonna jump off now, but I'm gonna add you guys on Facebook as well.
Okay. All right.